Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steeler Culture Podcast. This is episode 14, presented by SteelTwins.com and a part of the Steel City Podcast Network. We are the Steel Twins. Thank you guys for joining us on this Sunday. We are 10 weeks away from the regular season. 10 weeks away from regular season Sunday. 10 weeks away until our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers face the San Francisco 49ers nervously in our home opener.
Nervously, yes. That's probably the best way to put it.
But
depending on who's the quarterback.
Oh, yeah, because, that's going to be interesting. That's what training camp's going to be all about. For us and the Steelers, there's going to be a lot of things we're going to be looking forward to when it comes to training camp, but mostly the offensive line. And when it comes in terms of that, it's the left tackle battle. We're going to talk about all that, kind of analyze the offensive line, the picket fence, if you will, ahead of training camp, which is 3 weeks away from Wednesday. The players report July 26th. That is when training camp starts for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's when they report to Latrobe, and that's
right.
when the Steelers season really starts going again. That's when we can really get excited. So 3 weeks from Wednesday, man. We are in July. We are in training camp month.
Yeah, already.
It's
crazy. It feels like yesterday we were doing the live reaction to the Browns game.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And 1 month's time, August 11th, preferably is the date where we can watch Steelers football again. That is when preseason starts for the Steelers. Friday, August 11th. So, yeah, it's back that we're doing live streams because, it's been a while. It's pretty much since the schedule came out. We got to get back into the live streaming groove because it's going to be live streaming season for the channel, man, because we're going to be doing watch parties for the preseason. For the regular season, we're going to be joined by our co-host of the Steel Culture Podcast, Code Steel. That's going to be fun. That's going to be great. Those three energies mixed together is always fun to watch. Now you mix in Steelers football, who knows what's going to happen, man. Especially, who knows what's going to happen with this offensive line. We all thought it was improved last year. We had a little bit of hope, and not necessarily that much improved up until the second half of the season.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. But before we get into that, we want to give a shout-out to SeatGeek for partnering with the podcast, for sponsoring today's episode. SeatGeek is a ticket search engine where you can go to SeatGeek.com and look for any tickets or events you're looking forward to that can be related to sports, combat, comedy, whatever you're into. But obviously, for our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, we're looking for Steelers tickets, and the Steelers season's around the corner. For preseason, for the regular season, if you're looking forward to the Niners game or the Week 2 matchup, you can get your tickets at SeatGeek.com. And the best part is you can put the code SteelTwins at checkout for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So you can still go to a Steelers game and save a little cash while in the process.
Yeah.
So, again, that is SeatGeek.com. Code SteelTwins at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. So shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode of the Steeler Culture Podcast. And one more thing is we have a jersey giveaway to announce for STN members only.
And speaking of which, I see that Menard's Redneck, I apologize if I've mispronounced your names. We're not really great with names, but he has joined the STN.
So thanks to you for joining the STN, and you are entered in the jersey giveaway that we'll be doing. It's also a combo with this $50 Steelers Pro Shop gift card that we got when we ordered our Joey Porter Jr. number 24 jerseys. The Steelers were kind enough to send this in as well. It was a nice little deal they had on the website, so this will be entered as well as with this Steelers jersey
And it's
giveaway.
pretty fitting with the topic of today's episode.
It is, of course, Marquise Pouncey,
Boom.
Ben Roethlisberger's best friend, Mason Rudolph's best friend, if you really want to
Go that
there.
far, yes.
Marquise Pouncey is a signed Marquise Pouncey jersey. This will be entered in STN members exclusive only. Details are coming soon. Look out for the community tab. If you're an STN member, that is where the giveaways are going to be posted, is the community tab. So keep an eye out for that for details and announcements. If you guys want to get in, you can join the STN today. It's as little as $1.99 a month. Not only do you guys get entries for giveaways, which are going to be reoccurring every 2, 3, 4 months. At one point down the road, we want to start doing monthly giveaways for your STN members. It's our best way of giving back to you guys.
Yes.
Not only that, but emotes are coming with the live stream, with the watch parties. More emotes are going to be happening. We want to start doing cool little badges for you guys. That way it shows you guys' length of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Length
support,
of time.
loyalty.
Length of time support with the channel.
Yeah, so that's going to be happening down the road. But this Marquise Pouncey signed jersey giveaway will be entered, as well as this $50 Steelers gift card for Steelers Pro Shop. So that will be a combo we're going to be doing very shortly. Details are coming soon. Again, for you STN members, look out in the community tab for details. And if you want to get in, become an STN member today. Now, enough of the chit-chat and the blabbering. Let's start talking about the Steelers' offensive line. Let's talk about the Pickett Fence is what's going around Steelers Nation these days, right? Because obviously our quarterback's Kenny Pickett's very fitting, and we really needed to improve our offensive line. And I know Rob and I and our co-host of the podcast, Cold Steel, has been very vocal for years. Improve the O-line. It's been our biggest need. There's a reason we kept talking about it year after year because it just,
especially most importantly this offseason.
Because it just kept getting worse, and it resulted in Kenny's 2 concussions last year versus the Bucks and I believe the Ravens.
Yeah, you're correct on that.
Preferably that left side of the line is more responsible for it. I mean, it's mostly because the way we got here. Before we analyze the current line, we got to talk about how we got here. And you guys already know we're not going to do a whole flashback conversation here.
But pretty much, this whole demise of the offensive line, it all started when Mike Munchak first left. He was our offensive line coach since 2014, and then he ultimately left in 2018 or after the 2018 season to Denver to be around family, which is very understandable.
Yeah.
And ever since his demise or him leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers, the offensive line did because of how much of an impact he had on the offensive line during the Killer Bee era.
And not just that, but obviously the aging of the Goon Squad. Who remembers the Goon Squad, right? Those were good old days. We can't reflect on the past too much, but because of the aging in the O-line, the Steelers, along with their quarterback, they really relied on that, which hurt the team a little bit because they relied on aging guys when you knew they weren't those guys anymore.
Yeah.
But the Steelers believed that they were, and they could still compete.
Yeah, they believe they still had it in them to get them to the promised land.
And unfortunately, history showed that was not the case.
No.
And that really hurt the team because
and
it blinded us from trying to improve the line sooner than later.
And one by one, members of the Goon Squad started leaving. I believe first Ramon Foster retired.
Yep.
And then I believe we traded away Marcus Gilbert to the Arizona Cardinals. And then Alejandro Villanueva left via free agency for Baltimore. That's right. And then obviously Marquise Pouncey retired, and David DeCastro suffered an injury that he never recovered from.
No, and he was released due to an unpassed physical, and that's the last we heard of DeCastro.
Yeah.
And yeah, this Goon Squad was completely revamped. New faces, new look, new scenery everywhere, from the coaching to the players to the development to the depth. It was not good. It was not good. And the Steelers did the bare minimum to improve it. In fact, they really depended on unproven depth and mid-round talent to try to fix the offensive line while still keeping Bennett the quarterback.
Yeah, for example, left tackle, Villanueva left, right? Who did the Steelers choose to have him be replaced with? Zach Banner.
Zach Banner.
After coming off a couple years to where he wasn't really a proven starter.
Yeah.
More so a depth guy. Then he suffered an ACL tear in the New York Giants game and never recovered there.
No.
Then you look at left guard. I remember Matt Filer. Is that how you pronounce it? Filer,
he's with
whatever.
the Bucks now, yeah.
Yeah, and he only stayed for, a handful of years. He left, and then we had Kevin Dotson eventually play in that role, the left guard spot, although I feel like he was more of a right guard in his rookie season when DeCastro was getting hurt.
Yeah, but they moved him to left. And he was a fourth-round talent, by the way. We all know what happened at center. I'd rather not talk about it because that was just one of the biggest blunders in Steelers' recent history. I'd even say Steelers' history in general.
Yeah.
My God, was that a blunder. Oh, my goodness.
Pretty much, we know who the Steelers chose to get during the draft.
Yeah. And
which, is great. Don't get me wrong. Najee, Freiermuth, anchors on the offense.
Yeah, but then you
knew that you were losing a future Hall of Fame center in Pouncey. He retired. That's your biggest position.
And they passed on the best center in the league for someone that probably won't even make the roster this year, and they drafted him in the 3rd round. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right guard, they didn't really do their due diligence in David DeCastro's injury and in his health. Very similar to the Stephon Tuitt type situation. What was it, last year, I believe?
Yeah.
Where they didn't really look further into it. And now Tuitt left due to personal reasons. DeCastro had injury issues. The Steelers didn't look into that, and they cut him after the draft rather than trying to find his replacement during the offseason. They just got a 1-year rental on Trey Turner. Thankfully, last year, they picked up James Daniels, and he is an anchor. He's a leader on that line. He's still young, a lot of experience. And, yeah, it took him a little while to get going with the offensive line last year, as did the entire offensive line. And that's still going to remain the case even going into this year. But, you saw him gel.
Yeah, James, I believe he didn't allow 1 sack at all last year, which is great.
And Chucks is the most experienced guy on this line in terms of he's been here a while. He's earning, his 5th year, I believe, with the Steelers?
Something like that. 5th or 6th year, something like that. He's been around for a good bit.
A lot of experience for Chucks. But what we're saying and why we bring up the past is their difference in approach for the offensive line is much more drastic than it was in previous years, where they just relied on mid-round talent and unproven depth, which obviously hurt the line, which is why we had to keep improving it to this year.
Yeah, last year, obviously, James Daniels, Mason Cole at center. He had a particularly a very good year last year at center. He's obviously the main guy at center at the moment.
So instead of relying on this continued depth and this continued line, they did something out their realm. Shout out to Colbert, shout out to Khan, right? And Colbert's last year, and Khan still did it this year, stepping in for his first offseason as GM. They spent bucks. They spent high capital. They went to get a Mason Cole. Then they got a James Daniels. They still like Chucks a lot, right? I mean, his cap hit this year is a little questionable for his style of play and his progression, but they trust him enough.
Yeah.
And that's why they're paying him as much as they're paying him this year. But you saw they got more aggressive in improving the line, which is what they needed to do. And in the NFL, that's what you have to do. You can't rely on just who you got.
Yeah.
Now, they still did that last year with Dan Moore and Kevin Dotson. Thankfully, those two are no longer starters on this team.
Or no longer plan to be the starters for the team.
That's nothing personal with them. It's not. We keep saying it. It's nothing personal with those two. It's just...
There's a reason why the Steelers signed Isaac Seumalo to replace Kevin Dotson. There's a reason why they traded up into the first round to select a left tackle in Broderick Jones.
They needed to. They spent big bucks. They got aggressive. They went after one of the best guards and one of the best tackles in free agency and in the draft. They needed to. They needed to improve that left side of the line. Now, Kevin Dotson and Dan Moore, they could still make the roster, but as far as I'm seeing it, they're not starters no more. Now, Broderick Jones could not be the week 1 starter.
Yeah, that left tackle spot, that left tackle battle position in training camp is something to definitely keep an eye on. Because Broderick, although he's a first-round pick, he's a top 15 pick, he's still a rookie. He's still got a bit of rawness into him. He's still got some working to do. Dan Moore, he's obviously very experienced for his age, 2 full years as a starter. But that battle position is going to be interesting. And although I feel like Broderick could be a day 1 starter, I would feel confident in him being a day 1 starter.
I think he's a day 1 starter. We even said that when we drafted him, that he was the last remaining day 1 starting left tackle on the board, which is why the Steelers had to trade up with the Pats in front of the Jets, and that they did.
But what I can see, and it's kind of similar to last year with Kenny Pickett, because Kenny Pickett was, arguably ready, more than likely ready to be the day 1 starting quarterback, but the Steelers didn't want to rush him out the gate, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I could see something similar to Broderick Jones in this case, and Dan Moore being a fill-in starter, to which, me and Dan's take on Dan Moore. He's not a full season starter anymore. That's not his role. But if Dan Moore were to fill in as an occasional fill-in starter for an inactive player, an injury to transpire, whatever, that's fine. That's fine by me. Anything to continue Broderick Jones' development and for him to kind of get in there a little bit until being the full-fledged franchise left tackle that we're hoping in Broderick Jones, that's fine with Dan Moore being the fill-in.
Because the truth is, and we really love Broderick Jones, we think he is the future franchise left tackle, which we all needed for the Steelers. That franchise anchor on that left side of the line, like a Trent Williams, like a Joe Thomas, like a Tristan Wirfs, guys like that. That's what we needed on this line. That's what we needed for Pickett. That's what we needed for Najee, was that anchor on that left side.
Yeah.
Broderick is that guy. I feel very confident in saying that. But the truth is, this year, he is still very raw because he only played a season and a half of left tackle experience at Georgia. He started all last year where he allowed 0 sacks and helped the Bulldogs go back-to-back in championships.
Yep.
But that was his only full year starting at left tackle. So the truth is, he's still raw. He only has what? I want to say not even 20 games playing as the left tackle.
You might be right on that.
He played a little bit of the postseason the first year the Bulldogs won, and all of last year, and did very good. He solidified himself as one of the better tackle prospects and athletes at that position.
And an absolute dog as a left tackle.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Pun fully intended. But, yeah, but the truth is he is still raw in his technique.
Yeah, and that's why
so
I think...
that might not force him to be the day one starter left tackle, which he doesn't have to be. I know we said that during the draft, and I still feel confident in saying that. We'll see what his progression is via training camp and preseason. But there is also no rush for this team right now.
Yeah,
it's still young.
That's why I say I can see the Steelers kind of having Dan Moore be the fill-in starter for maybe the first month, 4 weeks, 5 games, something like that.
Very similar to what they did with Kenny last year.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And as far as Dan Moore's role, whenever Broderick does fill in, Dan Moore can be a fine extra lineman for goal line, short yardage situation. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah,
I think that role fits Dan Moore to perfection.
That's what's going to fit him well as being the backup swing tackle because, and I got to give Dan Moore a lot of props, and I commend Dan Moore for this because without the Steelers' knowledge, without the Steelers knowing before minicamp, before OTAs, Dan Moore was on his own time learning how to play right tackle.
That's right.
Which he never played before. You got to commend him for that.
Yeah.
Because he knows, hey, the Steelers trade up for this guy. He's obviously taking my spot. I got to find a way to still have a role in this team, whether that's as an extra lineman in goal line situations, whether that's as a swing guy to see time at right tackle, because the truth is, Chuck's, I don't know how much longer he's going to be here. I know the Steelers trust him enough, but contractually, how much longer is he going to be here?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Dan Moore is going to be the replacement for Chuck's at right tackle. I don't feel confident in that. But you got to think that's what Dan Moore might be thinking. And the Steelers are definitely going to experiment with that. I can definitely see that as a formation we're going to see in preseason for sure.
Yeah.
Just to test him out, just see how he works. They already kind of did it in OTAs. They acknowledge he's been working at it. So obviously him and Pat Meyer are going to work on that and see where he can thrive there.
Yeah, they're definitely going to experiment with that for
sure.
But
I think that's great for Dan Moore. I think that gives him an extra role. That gives him more work to do with the Steelers. And I think Ben even said on his Football with Ben Roethlisberger podcast, I think it was the episode he had Shazier on right before the draft.
You might be correct, yeah.
He's always given his linemen credit. There's one position he will never throw under the bus, and that is the offensive line. He's always given offensive linemen credit. He even gave Dan Moore praise, saying he thinks he's the future left tackle for the Steelers. Steelers don't think that themselves, but he did commend Dan Moore for how much of a hard worker he is.
Which is what you want. Even as a depth piece, as a swing guy, props to Dan Moore, credit to Dan Moore for his awareness of, well, shoot, they drafted this guy, they traded up for this guy, I may not be the starter anymore, at least for not so long, but I can still have a role here. Yep. I can still have a position here.
I got to commend Dan Moore for taking matters in his own hands and working and showing that work ethic that Ben gave him a lot of praise for. So I don't know exactly what his future role with the Steelers is, but I think we kind of see where it could be going. I think it'd be a very nice swing tackle for the team as Broderick Jones continues to progress.
Yeah, and Broderick, I'm real excited to see his progression, his development. This is a position that we were very vocal of.
Incredibly vocal of. That's why in our reaction, we were so passionate because for years we were saying get left tackle. All offseason, the main position we kept mocking in the first round, outside of one mock and one mock only, which was to Joey Porter.
Now a Steeler.
Yeah, now a Steeler, thankfully at 32. We kept mocking left tackle in the first round. We were so heavy on that position being improved, and I'm so glad Khan and company got aggressive, and they traded up for Brodie Jones, number 77, on that left side of the Steelers' Pickett Fence.
Yes.
So we don't know how immediate he's going to start. That all depends on the training camp battle. That's the biggest training camp battle for the Steelers for sure is – does Broderick Jones become a day one starter? Do they bench him to get his technique going to kind of like what they did with Kenny, not to rush him in because there is truthfully no rush right now.
No, there's not. You want to work on his development more, polish him a bit more, work on his technique, especially with Pat Meyer coming into his second year as offensive line coach.
But I do think that if Broderick Jones is the day one starter, I think that says a lot about Broderick Jones.
Yeah, it does.
That really does. The Steelers have a lot to admire with Broderick Jones. They went heavy with him in the draft. That's the franchise guy they're going to lean on. That's the guy Kenny's going to lean on. That's someone that can grow with Kenny. So we'll see what Broderick Jones does in training camp. But we should all be excited for the 14th overall pick, number 77.
Yeah. And another guy that we should all be looking forward to and excited at the same time with left guard is Isaac Seumalo, a free agent that we picked up. And quite honestly, now it's yet to be determined, regular season hasn't played yet, but could very well end up being the more impactful free agent signing this past offseason.
I agree. He's one of the best guards in the league. I know he might be a little bit getting on the older side, but he can still play. He was an anchor on that Eagles line for how many years now? Both left and right guard.
You heard nothing but praise from Eagles players, coaches, and a lot of other players from other teams about his work ethic, how hard he's been working, his progression. Even Jason Kelce himself, who himself is a future Hall of Fame center.
Yeah, dude. Jason Kelce said, man, like that's a huge blow for the Eagles. That's a huge get for the Steelers, man.
He literally said that Seumalo was probably the smartest player he's ever been around in his career.
He's been around a lot of players. He's been with the Eagles for a long time. So Seumalo, being a Pittsburgh Steeler, coming to the Steelers is a huge get. And shout out to Andy Waddle because that connection really allowed us to get him.
Yeah.
And the finances worked out greatly, and that is a huge improvement at left guard. He's already our best left guard since Ramon Foster.
Yep.
What does this mean for Kevin Dotson? I don't care. I don't. Truthfully, man, I want us to trade him, not only because there's no role for him no more, but give him another shot elsewhere. That's why we kept mocking him. Trade Kevin Dotson for an extra pick or whatnot in the mock seasons we did, right? The mock drafts we did.
Yeah.
But
it's still possible that it could happen, around preseason.
No, it's still very possible. But what I'm getting from Kevin Dotson now, when I read his interviews and everything, right? He just doesn't seem like he wants to be here.
Right.
He said himself that, when you pay this guy the big bucks, he's going to be the starter. The problem is, Kevin Dotson, those could have been your big bucks. That could have been your contract. You lost your job.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do your job. It's as simple as that. The Steelers aren't hiding no secrets. They improved the left guard position drastically.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin Dotson, I honestly don't know if he makes the roster.
Now, it's a possibility he does. He could just very well end up having the Kendrick Green role from last year where Green didn't play a single game.
But as a guy who started the last 2.5 years, you would think he has a little bit of trade value, right?
But would a team that potentially looking at him want to trade anything, even a late round pick, want to trade him when it's a possibility he could just end up getting cut? Especially with the Steelers bringing in a versatile piece in Nate Herbig in the interior offensive line.
Yep, the Andy Waddle connection struck twice this offseason with Seumalo and with Andy Waddle. And I think Nick Herbig, I think he could take not only Kevin Dotson's role, but Kendrick Green's role. I wouldn't be shocked if neither of them make the roster because Nick Herbig can do everything they both can, as well as the guy we drafted in the 7th round, Spencer Anderson, who's incredibly versatile.
Yeah.
He's played every position outside of left guard at Maryland.
Yeah.
Now, he's a 7th round talent. There's not really a prime spot for him. We don't know what we're going to see from him. But if he shows out enough, Nick Herbig and Spencer Anderson could be our new interior guys. In terms of depth.
And Dotson and Green, they could be headed out the door. No longer with the team. And quite honestly, that could very well be for the best. Let's be real.
It could be for the best because we don't need them. They didn't do enough to remain with the team.
I mean, let's be honest here. Dotson holds no role anymore outside of a backup position.
No.
But there's a reason why they also brought in Nate Herbig.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. And Kendrick Green, forget about it. The man should never made the roster last year.
No. There's a reason he was in every game inactive. For a 3rd round pick. God, man, that is truthfully one of the worst draft decisions the Steelers have ever made, man. Seriously.
Yeah, that was a complete blunder there.
Good Lord, was that terrible. But I don't see how either of them make the roster. I don't. I think Nick Herbig or Spencer Anderson can take either of those guys' roles. I think our depth is improved, as well as our offensive line is improved from a starter aspect at the same time.
Yeah.
This offseason, this is why we say our approach and how we've improved the line has been drastically changed the last couple of years. Because last year, they signed Cole, they signed Daniels. This year, they traded up and drafted Broderick Jones. They signed Seumalo. They signed Nick Herbig. They improved the depth. They improved the starting positions. The offensive line is completely revamped. The Pickett Fence is complete. Now, we don't know how fast they're going to gel together. We don't know exactly how good they're going to be. It might take time, very much like last year. It very well could.
Early on, maybe.
But the O-line, from looking at a roster prospect, when you look at it on paper, it's completely revamped. It is improved. The picket fence is complete. Kenny Pickett, Najee, and Jalen Warren should be smiling ear to ear looking at the offensive line they have. And even if it doesn't gel well immediately, think of it next year. After 2023, You're still going to have Brodie Jones. You're still going to have Seumalo. You could still have Mason Cole. James Daniels. Chucks could still be around, right? This is the line that's going to remain the same for at least another 2-3 years. You might have to replace a guy here and there, but nonetheless, you got guys under contract long term. They're still young. This line is here to stay. There's not going to be much change, unless, of course, a player doesn't step up and he doesn't perform the way he should, but on paper, this line is going to remain the same. There's no in and out sort of deal. There's no, this guy's the starter now you're out here. There's no Reynolds. There's nothing like that.
No.
You got a steady line if you look at it from a contractual aspect, you have an offensive line that you can be confident in. Truthfully.
For a running back that you drafted in the first round, a man that fights for yards literally at the line of scrimmage, that shouldn't have to happen.
No, he should not be fighting for yards at the line of scrimmage.
And Kenny Pickett, I mean, you stated earlier, the man had 2 concussions, and that was because of the left side, because they couldn't hold their own. So, the future's bright when it comes to the offensive line. They just got to gel well. They just got to continue to work on their hand usage, their technique, their foot placement.
And I think the retaining of Pat Meyer is incredibly crucial, because after the Goon Squad left, after Mike Munchak left, it was a rotating door of offensive line coaches.
And there were guys that were promotions from within, because after Munchak left, it was Sean Sarrett, who was the assistant offensive line coach to Munchak. He was promoted. He didn't really turn out too good. Now he's with the Chargers, holding a similar position he had with Munchak.
But after he left, they improved the assistant under him, which was Adrian Clem. It was an in-house promotion sort of deal. Then Clem left for, what was it? I forget what college.
It was for Baylor, and I remember he was supposed to, if I remember correctly, he was supposed to leave after the season, but he ended up leaving like 2 more games before the season ended.
Yeah.
So he just literally kicked rocks before the season ended.
But after the season ended, they got Pat Meyer, and it's taken a little time, but you see the offensive line, you kind of see where they're going. The right side, very specifically, you saw where they were going last year.
Yeah.
You knew they couldn't retain Dan Moore and Kevin Dotson. You couldn't, which is why the Steelers did what they did this offseason, thankfully. Now you get those 2 guys gelled with the right side of the line, with this guy still as our O-line coach. This is why we say the approach has been drastically changed. It's been important. Instead of doing the bare minimum like they have after the Goon Squad left, they have drastically changed the way they've improved this line.
Yeah.
From a coaching aspect, from a cap aspect, from the way they approach the draft, everything. And we got to give kudos to the entire front office for doing that.
Yeah, thankfully.
It was much needed, especially when you drafted the first round running back and quarterback.
Yeah, no more band-aiding the situation anymore. You did that for long enough.
And you've always stated that the offensive line is the core of an offense.
It's the heart of an offense. I mean, why do you think the Killer Bees were so great? Yeah, you had Prime Ben, AB, Bell, Bryant, Heath. You know, you had great targets, of course. But they wouldn't be able to produce the numbers that they did if it wasn't for the Goon Squad, if it wasn't for Mike Munchak.
And I'll give you a more recent example on why improving the line was so important for this offense, for this team, for the young guys.
And it's probably the most perfect example.
It's like, you can't dispute anything I'm about to say here. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl versus the Bucs. The best quarterback in the league couldn't do anything in the biggest game of the season because his line couldn't do much.
So what did the Chiefs do? They went into free agency and they spent big bucks on offensive line.
Immediately, they spent big bucks. They got aggressive in the draft. They took guys of high capital, right? They improved it drastically and immediately. And now, in a few years later, they're the retaining champs.
They went up against the Philadelphia Eagles that had the #1 pass rush, #1 defense. They led the league in sacks last year, and they didn't get one in the Super Bowl because the Chiefs' offensive line shut them down. That is a big reason why the Chiefs are now Super Bowl champions again.
And that's why the offensive line is so important for the Steelers. That's exactly why. I'm glad the Steelers, it's not drastically changed like the Chiefs did it, but I'm glad they did something. I'm glad they're not doing the bare minimum. I'm glad they're not doing what they did 2-3 years ago. I'm glad they didn't pass on the best tackle or the best center.
And the guys that they brought in, free agency, they brought in young guys, experienced guys, leadership capabilities on the offensive line, which is something when the Goon Squad left, we had none of that.
None.
Zero.
Now we got James Daniels, we got Isaiah Sayamalu as the leaders in the middle of that line, and Cole as well. Guys with so much experience.
And you got Broderick Jones on the left tackle position that he's going to learn from those guys. He's going to gel with those guys. He's going to grow with those guys. You got a good mix of experience, starting capability, youth, leadership. That's great for Najee. That's great for Pickett. That's great for this offense when ultimately in the end, hopefully, fingers crossed, they all gel because that's the plan. That's the dream. That's what we want.
I do have great confidence that this offensive line will gel and it will remain the same for the next couple of years. And we don't have to worry about the offensive line as much as we have the past couple of years because we have guys that will stay for the long haul. We have guys that will be around Pickett for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
We have
pretty
guys,
much the length of his rookie contract.
We have guys that can run with Pickett as in years' time we're really going to have to make a serious run while Pickett's still in a rookie contract. That's what I'm confident about. Yeah, it's going to take some time for Brody to learn more about the tackle position and become that franchise offensive lineman. It's going to take a little time for this offensive line to continue to gel, but I'm confident in the right side to do what they did last year because they're all retained. And I trust Sayamalu, who's one of the best guards in the NFL.
He showcased that last year, that's for sure. So
I'm incredibly excited about this offensive line. So when we look at it at training camp, there's so much going to be looking forward to. Mostly the left tackle battle because that's very important. That is one thing we're really going to look at is can Dan Moore improve based on the competition he's going to have? Because truthfully, Dan Moore never had competition. He was forced into the position.
Yeah, because Zach Banner never recovered from his ACL injury.
No, he was forced into the position, and last year he knew he was the starting tackle, never had competition, and didn't show much progression.
And hell, center, Kendrick Green's rookie year.
Yeah.
He had no competition.
No.
The only competition he had was an undrafted guy that played in the AAF.
But now Dan Moore's going to have competition. Brody Jones is going to learn from some of the best in the league.
Yeah.
He's got an offensive line to just build himself around, right? He's got coaches he can learn from. It's great. And truthfully, man, yeah, he's got raw technique, but you see it, man, his athleticism, his strength, his core work, you see he has all the tools to be a franchise guy.
Yeah.
Which is why we were so vocal, so passionate when we drafted him, man, because we needed it. Kenny needed it. Najee needed it. So shout out to the Steelers for improving this line drastically and the way they've approached it the last number of years. Thank God. Thank God. Otherwise, man, it would have set us back even more years. Now I don't feel that much the same.
No,
so
absolutely
I'm
not.
a little more excited about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in training camp, go up against our front seven.
Yep.
See what they do going up against other front sevens in preseason.
That's another great point, right? You have one of the best front sevens to learn from.
Yeah.
You're going to be facing the best in the business. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. That's only going to, it's iron sharpens iron, literally.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great camp battle. That's going to be phenomenal. You got Alex Highsmith going up against Broderick Jones. That's going to make each guy better. It's going to make Broderick better.
Yeah.
And another thing about Broderick, let's say he is the week one starter, right? Let's say Broderick is the week one starter. He's going up against Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And I believe who we face week 2? Is it the Browns?
Let me double check.
It's the Browns. It's the Browns.
Okay.
Week 2. If he's the week one starter, he's going up against Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to have some tough competition versus the Raiders. Max Crosby's on the other side, right? Chuck's side.
So they got Chandler Jones then.
Still.
Chandler Jones.
Like, he's going to have a lot of competition.
Houston Texans week 4. Who's to say that Will Anderson ain't going to be on Broderick's side?
Yeah, he could be on his side or Chuck's side.
Baltimore Ravens, I mean, they have
Odafe Way.
Yeah, they have fine pass rushers at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if it's a big test for Broderick Jones. It really is.
If he's the week one starter, he's going to have a lot on his plate early on, but that's only going to make him better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, is it throwing him into the fire? Is it throwing him into the wolves a little bit? Yeah. But if he's ready to be the week one starter, you make him the week one starter. Don't stare at our competition and be like, fuck. No, Dan Moore, no, you're the starter. We ain't going to hurt Broderick like that. No, you're only hurting Kenny doing that. You start Broderick if he is ready week 1.
If Broderick proves himself in training camp and preseason that he is worthy of being day 1. Kind of like what TJ Watt did.
Yeah.
He proved he was day 1 worthy, and you had James Harrison be the backup.
Yeah.
That's what you did. And TJ Watt fucking showcased what he could do.
And it's only going to make Broderick better, man. You know, if he learns early on, if he goes up against the best early on and he doesn't do that well, don't panic. We got to have patience because there is no rush with this team. There's not. There's no rush yet. Next year, yeah, we can talk about it a little bit, but there's no rush with this team yet. With this line, yeah, it's improved on paper. We still got to be a little patient, especially with Broderick, because if he is week 1 starter, he's going up against great competition. If he doesn't do well, don't panic. If he does well, if he does solid, that is incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what we really got in Brodie Jones. But I'm excited for it. That's going to be a huge test for him if he is indeed the week 1 starter. But, you know, I'm excited for it. And going up against guys like Highsmith and Watt's only going to help him prepare for that.
It's going to make him better.
And so it's going to make this entire offensive line better, man. It's iron sharpens iron. That's what training camp is all about. And training camp is literally 3 weeks from Wednesday. So in short time, we are really going to start seeing what these guys are made of. We're going to start seeing, you know, who's going to shine in camp and what they translate to preseason. Almost like what Pickens did last year. He was doing ungodly, unhuman things, and that translated very early. And now he's going to be an incredible target for Pickett.
Yeah.
So hopefully the offensive line gels well and they show us the potential that they can truly have. It might take a little patience, but I see the potential.
Yeah.
I see the promise. I see where this team's heading. It's very exciting for me.
Yeah.
And I know it's exciting for a lot, especially shout out to Jesse in the chat. Says, I'm excited for this line, man. Yeah, Hargrave. I forgot Hargrave. Yeah, God almighty, that is...
Yeah, that's right. They signed Hargrave to a multi-year contract.
Oh,
deal,
that's not fucking fair.
Yeah, so Cole, so the interior line in general, you know, they got a challenge of their own too.
Fuck, we gotta go up against Hargrave and Bosa week 1.
Hey, it's quite the competition week 1. You know, they never said it was going to be easy.
No, it's not.
But
I would rather them get early competition.
you know what's crazy?
Early,
the past what was it? The past 2 years, if I remember, we had the Bills, which were a difficult competition.
Yeah.
We won.
We had the Bengals last year.
We won barely, but we won. I'm not saying we're going to beat the Niners, but I mean, like, the past 2 years, you know, we had some heavy competition to start the season. And I don't know how the Steelers do it, but the Steelers do it. Maybe it's a Mike Tomlin thing.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But we even said when we made our instant reaction to the record or to the schedule being released is no matter what happens week 1, it doesn't set the tone.
No, it never does.
No.
It never does.
We're going to have a tough battle there, especially the line. But I'd rather them get the tough battle early because, you know, it kind of goes to tell you what your mistakes are early so you don't have to worry about it later. You know what I mean? I'd much rather them learn what they messed up at early so that when we're like midway through the season, you kind of know where you're really at.
Or hell, really after the bye week, because our bye week is week 6. So even after that, you know, that's when you should look through the tape, learn from your mistakes. Like, all right, we got a long stretch ahead of us. We got a long stretch of the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So it's like we got to get our shit together. We have to get going right there. After week 6, the bye. Week 7, we got the Rams, and right there, that's when you start fucking going at it.
Yep.
Hard.
That's really when this team should start really picking up.
Yeah.
But the fact we got some tough competition early on, you know, I never disliked that. I think that's good for this team. It kind of humbles the team a little bit.
Yeah.
It tells you what your flaws are early on, so you ain't got to worry about it. Almost like when we went 11-0. You know, we were just barely stretching out wins, and we didn't. Oh, we're getting wins. You know, we're doing good, right? No, you're not doing good. You're barely stretching out wins, and by the time you start losing, you don't know what your flaws are, and you can't recover, which is why we got blown out by the Browns in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. I'm potentially going to the Steelers-Pats game. That's going to be incredibly personal for a lot of us.
And that is in Acrisure Stadium. That's correct.
What'd you call it?
It's Acrisure Stadium.
No, it's not Acrisure Stadium.
Danny, you got to let it go.
It is Heinz Field.
Yeah, I know Heinz Ward did great in that stadium, but you got to let it go, man.
No,
it's Acrisure.
Acrisure, agriculture.
It's Acrisure.
Architect, aqueduct. Acrisure, not calling it. Are you sure you really want to call it that?
That's what it's called. Really I am looking at it right now. That's what it says.
I don't know what you're blind, bro. That's not.
I got glasses. What are you talking about? You got glasses. Your prescription.
That says Heinz Field. Bro.
No, it don't.
It's not Acrisure Stadium.
Danny, you gotta let go of that.
I'm never letting go of that.
You have to let go of that.
I am never letting go of that.
You gotta move on eventually. This is the name for the next 14 years.
I don't give a fuck. It's Heinz Field to me. Swear jar. Yeah, I'm not letting that go.
Come on, man.
It's Heinz Field. But yeah, Jesse, if you're going to the Steelers-Pats game, a little cheap plug here, SeatGeek.com, go to SeatGeek.com and get your tickets. Code SteelTwins at checkout for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So
That's right.
if you're looking forward to any Steelers game, it could be week 1, could be week 2, could be the Pats game, could be, I don't know, if you're in Houston, go to the Texans game, right? Go to the Raiders game, right, in Vegas.
Which is crazy. That Texans game is actually going to be pretty emotional because J.J. Watt's going to retire a Texan, and his brother's going to be there.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
That's going to be
But
great.
if you guys looking forward to any of that, man, SeatGeek, code SteelTwins at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So you still go to the game and still save some cash. And I'll buy you exactly 1 beer at Heinz Field. So why not?
Acrisure Stadium. I'm going to do that all year just to fuck with you.
This
Swear
is
jar.
this is the new Jordan Addison type deal what we have on the draft stream. They kept irritating me.
I'm
because,
telling
like,
you,
we're
man.
gonna
I'm
draft
telling
Jordan
you.
Addison.
I'm telling you. I'm going to do this all year, man.
No, it's Heinz Field. Come on.
Jesse, did we bring back Presley Harvin? I can't take another year of his awful punting.
Yeah, but I think we signed some competition. It's Brandon Mann, who was the Jets punter last year. He's not any better. He's not any better.
That's the competition Harvin could quite honestly use, but I feel like he kind of already had that when we let go of who was the Broncos punter last year. Like, because he was
Corliss Waitman.
Yeah, he was like the freaking team last year. Like, he was doing all sorts of punts because Russell Wilson and the offense couldn't do anything. I'm thinking, like, how the hell do we let go of this guy? Why? Because Harvin was a rookie?
Yeah.
I mean, Harvin still has potential, but I mean, I feel like this is his real, true kind of final chance, honestly, because, I mean, you're bringing in competition, you're bringing in an experienced punter, a former starter punter. I mean, Harvin, you got to step up your game.
But
you got to live up to why we selected you.
I would hope so, but even if he's not and Brandon Mann is the punter, it's a minimal upgrade. We need to get rid of Gunner. Well, I think that's what Calvin Austin's for. That's where he's going to get his feet wet. That's another camp out I'm looking forward to.
Special teams.
Yeah, the return ability. That's going to really that's going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
Now, hopefully he can stay healthy, but in a month's time, we can really start seeing what Calvin Austin can bring to this team. We can see his grease, lightning, speed on the field.
Yeah.
So, Code is not on the set today. He decided to stay home because he had family obligations. Shout out to Code. He just had a daughter, so
Yes,
congrats
indeed.
to him.
He's a daddy again.
And now I have another niece to protect from...
And spoil.
Spoil.
Yeah.
Spoil? What are you talking?
I'm going to spoil the shit out of her.
Yeah, sure. Spoil. They're all spoiled.
That one, well, you know, that's...
Too many of them. But
yeah.
congrats to him. He had another child. He had another daughter, so he's spending
Yes,
time
congrats,
with her.
Cold.
We
Congrats.
hope to get him back on the show very shortly because, I mean, it is going to be live stream season soon, isn't it? You know, we got August 11th. That's the first game we're going to be having for us to finally get back to Steelers football. You know, training camp, that's coming in 3 weeks from Wednesday. There'll be numerous reports coming out, so I'm excited for all of that. It's going to be fun, man. This is really when we get back into the groove of the football season.
Yep.
I'm excited for it. So that's why we made this live stream, this episode of the podcast today to talk about the line because, you know, I suppose that's really starting to get into the training camp discussion is we analyze the Pickett Fence ahead of training camp because that's what we're looking most forward to in camp. What are you most looking forward to, though, outside of the line?
Outside the offense, that's a damn good question. Now, you have to give
Now, there's a lot. There is.
I mean, there's the inside linebacker spot with Cole Holcomb and Atlanta Roberts in there, and the other additions that they brought in. They completely revamped that position.
They did.
Compared to last year, it's like completely revamped. You know, it'd be interesting to see what Mark Robinson can do. You know, because, you know, I mean, they're not gambling on him, but they really want to see his development, his progression from year one.
Yeah, I thought they would gamble on him, but they ultimately decided not to. Terrell Austin even said that they're really not putting all their eggs in his basket this year. He's pretty much saying he's still got a ways to learn. Like, he's learning a lot, but he's still got ways to go. So they're not inserting him as a starter like they had to last year when Bush disappointed. It was a good way to get his feet wet, but they're not doing that this year. Unless he progresses faster than they expect, then they might have no choice. But they're not looking at it that way.
No.
They're really noticing, hey, you're still new. You're still fresh to this position. We're not going to rush you.
Of course.
You still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
So they're not rushing him into anything. Now, how we feel about that, it can go either way. Because he is undersized. He is very new to the position. He was recently a running back. before playing linebacker.
Yeah, he only played one position at linebacker at Ole Miss before being drafted.
We do admire his intensity, his tenacity at the position.
Last year's preseason, like he was a guy that stuck out when it came to the backups.
He's someone that will not sit back and just stand there. Yeah. Not like Bush. He will hit that fucking gap. He will strike. He's a downhill striker. Yeah. He's got that mentality already written down. Mm-hmm. He plays like a Steeler. But, if Terrell Austin says he still has ways to go, then I got to trust the DC, don't I?
I mean, he didn't. Terrell Austin last year, he did very well. Yeah. In his first year, He's done well for the whole secondary. Now you put that with the defense. I felt overall he did very good last year. So.
I agree. But, we're still going to see a lot of Mark Robinson in training camp, but I don't know how much they're going to rush him in. I mean, he does have a lot of people to learn from. Holcomb, Roberts. Yeah. So
but with how many people they brought in inside linebacker, could it be a season where they just kind of rotate with the guys that they brought in?
Probably, because they did bring in Tanner Muse. He's going to be the special teams guy. Yeah. Pretty much Marcus Allen's replacement. Derek Watt's replacement. They also brought in I can never pronounce his last name, so excuse me. He's the former Raiders linebacker, Nick. I remember watching him when he originally played with the Raiders. Yeah. And this is before the Robert Spillane era. I remember thinking, man, this is what Tyler Matakavich should have been. Right? Yeah. This is what Tyler Matakavich could have been. Because he's much like Landon Roberts. He's the leader. He has experience. He's very good in the run support. But, all our linebackers are the same. Yeah, they're good at that. But there's no coverage linebacker. All our linebackers are the same player, just different names and different styles. Yeah. Different speeds, I suppose.
And this is why I'm actually going to bring up a question right now. Do you think the Steelers do something during the season at inside?
They have to.
Do you think they bring back, I don't know, a Miles Jack? Or do you think they trade for the inside linebacker position? Because we talked about Isaiah Simmons potentially being a possibility, but he already confirmed with the Cardinals that he's working with the defensive backs this year. Yeah, I don't know how likely that is anymore.
He's going to be a safety, so that's out of the picture. I think they do make a trade for linebacker. I don't know when. I don't know who. Yeah. But there's going to be some rumors. There's going to be something running around. It could be almost like another Minka situation where it could be 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks in, maybe before the trade deadline, and then someone wants to get traded, or a team's looking to trade somebody, or it's a contract issue, or whatnot, and the Steelers are like, hey, we need a linebacker. Why not?
And Omar Khan's shown already that he's not afraid to go to those lengths.
And we're not saying we don't trust Holcomb and Roberts and company to hold down that position.
Yeah, because the truth is we don't really know what they're going to bring to the black and gold.
No, we know their improvements over what we had last year on leadership, the run defense, the pass rush ability. Yeah. The way they play the game. They're not shy of attacking the ball carrier, unlike Bush and unlike Jack last year. But we just don't have that linebacker, that coverage linebacker. We don't have that athlete. You could say Mark Robinson, but Terrell Austin already kind of shut that down and thinking he's going to see an advanced role this year. Right. So you can't buy into that. So I do think we do see a position trade at linebacker at some point. Yeah. I don't know when, I don't know who, but off topic, but are you guys buying into the Jets hype? No, I'm not. I'm buying into the Breece Hall hype for fantasy reasons. I'm not buying into the Jets hype. No, I'm not.
I see them going to the playoffs, but not a Super Bowl. No. People talking about Super Bowl, they can get the hell out of here.
Aaron Rodgers is a choke artist now. How many chances did he have with the Packers to go back?
Oh, countless, dude.
Countless. How many times did they go to the NFC Championship just to get blown out? Versus the Falcons, versus the Bucks. I mean, it's terrible.
The Seahawks, man. That was the closest time they could have made it to the Super Bowl, and they blew that.
They blew that. That was a great game, by the way.
Yeah, it was, but they blew it.
They blew it. How many chances did A-Rod have to go back to the Super Bowl since beating us in 45?
The man was a 2-time MVP 2 straight years. 2 straight years he was MVP.
He's a choke artist. He can't get it done no more.
Didn't make it to the Super Bowl. No.
He can't get it done no more. He can't. Now, the Jets' defense is better than the Packers, but still, I don't think he can do it. I'm not buying into the Jets' hype. They'll be better for sure. How can he not be better?
No, they'll be better, but I don't think Super Bowl.
No. If they make the playoffs, they might get one game in, but If not, one and done.
It depends on what AFC team they face because, I mean, the AFC's still got a boatload of great teams.
In fact, man, if I'm not saying we are going to make the playoffs, but I know for a fact we're going to remain in contention.
Yeah, that's always going to be the case with Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, you should not doubt that unless proven otherwise. But I would love to see a Steelers versus Jets preseason playoff matchup.
Postseason, yeah. That would be good.
In the wild card,
that would be good.
That would be very fun.
That would be very good.
That would be very, very cool. But no, I'm not buying into the hype, Jesse. I'm not. You guys ready for the 4th of July? Absolutely. I know it's 4th of July weekend, and we don't need another Jason Pierre-Paul situation, so hope all you guys are safe out there. Please stay safe. Be responsible. Have fun. Just do it at a very safe pace, I suppose, because I know I'm going to have some fun. But, nah, just be careful out there. That's all I say. You know, have a safe holiday.
Of course. Have a great time with family, friends. Have a couple beers. Have a couple burgers, hot dogs, whatever you like to eat.
It's great, man.
Launch a couple fireworks, but please definitely be careful on this holiday.
I remember being excited for the 4th of July holiday. It's not the same like it was when I was a kid for family, but, man, it's still exciting.
Yeah, of course.
The 4th of July is always a fun time, man. Get patriotic, to get fun.
For America.
It's great, yeah.
For America.
Yeah.
God bless America.
Yes, sir. Acquishire, what is it, Acquishire?
Acquishire.
I don't even know anymore. I don't care.
Acquishire Stadium.
Acquishire Ketchup. I don't think so. No. Acquishire's an insurance company in Michigan. Michigan.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's still Acquishire Stadium.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. What are you talking about? It's official.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Not in my eyes.
Well, you need your eyes checked then.
What position group is in question for us as Stu Sports Talks?
That's a good one. That's a good question.
What position? I'm going to say either strong safety or slot corner because it appears to me Keanu Neal is going to be the one-year rental. He's going to replace Edmonds from a systematic aspect where he's going to play that box safety role. He's going to fill in what Edmonds played for us.
Yeah.
Right? He's not the long-term fill-in. He's a rental. Casey's going to be that versatile piece, that dime package guy. But slot corner, we have no slot corner. We have nobody.
At least no pure or true slot corner. Now, we did bring in Chandon Sullivan. He's a former Packer and Viking.
A ton of experience, but to have him as our only option is not good. Maybe we see Casey fill in at slot corner. Maybe we get Trey Norwood in there because he's a liability as a safety. I think a way for him to make the roster and to get his time going is let's see what he's got.
Yeah,
because
I always pictured him as more of a slot cornerback than a safety. I don't think safety fits him well. He's versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife, like Tomlin likes to call him. But I feel like as a slot corner, that's where he could really see the best chance.
Agreed.
Because Trey Norwood, I mean, he's kind of on his last legs with the team. At least from what I'm seeing.
It just appears that way, right? Like he had a very good rookie year, but they haven't positioned him to succeed. Now they have a chance. But what I really do see them doing at slot corner is they're going to mix in Patrick Peterson in the slot.
Yeah.
He wants to move around. The Steelers are going to gladly oblige with his request. You got Wallace, you got Porter you can put outside with Peterson playing in the nickel. I mean,
yeah.
You got guys you can move around.
And quite honestly, with the schedule, especially early on, we're going to have a couple slot wide receivers. And when it comes to the slot position, some of the best receivers play the slot. And we may need Patrick Pearson to get into the slot position to kind of lock down those guys. You look at the 49ers, Deebo Samuel, or even Brandon Ayuk. He can play a bit of slot of his own right.
You got the Browns. They got Elijah Moore in there now. That's dirty. Right?
Yeah. You got the Rams. Cooper Kupp. Forget about it, right?
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp in the slot, Jesus Christ. Guys like that, man. Just a couple examples for this season, So putting Peterson in the slot may have to be a priority.
I think that's the way to go for now because we don't have no one from a roster aspect to put in there. I want to see some competition going, but I think they're going to rely on Peterson.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to get Porter's feet wet with a sub package where he'll play outside. And then that's going to help him out to get his feet wet there. That'll help the communication, kind of get him on the field with Peterson a little bit. Because I do think Peterson and Wallace are going to be our outside corners to start the year. Porter's going to be slowly filled in.
Yeah.
That's another guy we're all excited for, right? Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, JPJ, PZ Jr.
That's going to be fun, man. Man, it's just this entire training camp coming up is going to be a lot to watch for. I'm much more excited for this team than I have been in recent years.
Yeah.
I really am.
It's just a thought of the growth and the grooming that the Steelers are doing.
That's what it is. It's not like when we had Ben, we're like, okay, this is the final year, and then we lost, and then he comes back. Okay, now this is the final. It's not like that.
No.
It's not like Ben in his last couple of years where we have to do it, right?
Yeah, like it's win now. And when it comes to Mike Tomlin, it's always going to be win now in his mentality. That's always going to be the Steeler way.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, we're young, but we're going to go 6'10", 6'11", get an early pick, continue to build. No, that's not how they roll. They're going to remain above 500 until proven otherwise. They're going to remain in playoff contention, but you're going to see steady growth with this team.
Yeah.
And I think that's the exciting part is for the first time in a long time for a lot of Steelers fans, this is when we can really see a young team surrounded by a young quarterback grow together.
Yeah.
For the first time since Ben was young, since Ben's rookie contract, right?
Where Ben just grew with everybody.
He did.
All his targets, all his running backs.
That's the point. That's the thing they're going to do with Pickett now.
Yeah.
That's what makes it very exciting with this team.
Yeah.
Is they're all young. You got to have patience, but watching the growth is going to be natural progression. It's going to be fun. And then let's say in years' time, hopefully we got a couple Lombardis up, right? Or at least I'll be happy with number 7. Then we can look back at years from now and like, man, I remember watching how young this team was to see where they came from.
Yeah.
That's where the excitement begins.
Yeah, the future is bright, man. We just got to be a little bit patient with the team. We're going to see the growth. We're going to see the mistakes, but they're going to learn from them. I'm confident in saying that. I'm confident that this team is going to gel together. They're going to grow together, and they're going to get back to being amongst one of the elites. That's my hope. That's what I truly believe.
I just hope that one specific individual isn't here for the long run. Unless, of course, he improves, but I'm not holding my breath.
No, of course. I don't think any of us should. Yeah. Matt Canada.
Yeah.
So
I'm not.
But the future is bright, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
We should all be very excited for that. And then training camp will first show that. Do you guys remember the Steelers-Cowboys game when we did the fake spike? Yes. Yeah,
fake spike touchdown to Antonio Brown, yes.
God, that was some electric fucking game. That was Dak and Zeke's rookie year. That was a fun game. I remember that was such a high energy in the house.
Yes.
It's funny because when we got that, I freaked out. Like I was marking out, but I was like, man, we left so much time. I don't trust this defense.
No, because we all know the defense was so bad. It was horrible.
When Sean Davis got that face mask penalty on
Jason Witten,
I remember. And it was like I was Jeremy Hill for a second, because who remembers when Burfict hit Brown, which ended his career, and then Joey Porter Sr. came out when he was a coach for us, and then a flag was thrown and we got down the field, and on the sideline they showed Jeremy Hill running up and down the Bengals sideline. No,
I remember that.
That was me in the living room when Sean Davis got that face mask.
I just remember yelling, like, why in the goddamn hell would you grab it?
Yeah.
Like, you had to grab that. And immediately, right after that penalty,
untouched.
Elliott went right up the middle, untouched, touchdown, game was over.
Yeah, I remember that game. I remember a lot.
Man, the house was chaotic, man. It's funny because our parents are Cowboys fans.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know how Steelers got into the family, but thank God it did.
But, hey, our best friends from across the street, right?
Yes.
Shout out to KJ and them. I remember they went out on their front porch, and they were screaming at the top of their lungs, and we were just watching from the window outside.
I remember.
And such disgust. Like, man.
God. Like we had the game, and, the defense just failed us.
And our reaction video was so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I look back at that sometimes. I'm like, man, we're so freaking, like.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't with
old
that no
times,
more.
man. Old times.
Shades of Marino. If only we drafted Marino, man.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest There's a lot of what ifs in the entire NFL, but especially for the Steelers, that's a big what if.
Yeah, and the modern version of that is Creed Humphrey.
Yeah. Yeah, really think about it. Or even Ryan Shazier, what if he didn't get hurt,
Yeah. Well, I say Marino because we passed on him.
Oh, Marino's definitely the top.
Yeah.
He's number one. That's never being derailed.
Yeah.
That's never being dethroned. Like, I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was a Rooney thing. I don't think it was Dan Rooney, not wanting the hometown boy story or
Really?
that pressure. I don't think it was
That's
Dan
what I
Rooney.
heard it was.
Was it Dan Rooney thinking that?
I think it was, yeah. They
Really?
didn't want the hometown kid feeling the pressure.
If it was Rooney, then that's definitely a big mistake. You might be right.
I did hear that from another. Oh, you know what it was? Yeah. So they passed on Marino because they didn't want the hometown kid feeling pressured.
Right.
Right. That's what I heard,
Yeah.
and that's why they didn't pass on Bill Cowher, because they learned from their mistakes. All right, we passed on Dan Marino because we thought he'd feel the pressure.
Yeah.
We can't do that with Bill Cowher. He's from Pittsburgh. We can't say no to him just because he's the hometown kid because we think he's going to feel the pressure. Thankfully, that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right on
They
that.
learned from their mistakes.
You might be right on that.
They missed out on a Hall of Fame quarterback. And no doubt in my mind, if Dan Marino.
Don't say that again.
If Dan Marino was our quarterback in '95, we would have won that Super Bowl. 100%. We would have won many.
Probably
in my
many.
opinion.
With that Blitzburg defense,
Oh my God.
forget about
You
it.
got Mr. Greg Lloyd up here, Kevin Green, Chad, what was his name? Chad Brown, I think.
Was he a part of that? Obviously, Rod Woodson before he left.
Yeah.
You know, guys like that. You had Carnell Lake, Pro Bowler.
Yeah. We know.
Man, like Jesus
Levon
Christ.
Kirkland.
Yes, that big boy.
Who was the other one? It was Kirkland and
Yeah, hold on.
Who was it?
Come on. It was Greg Lloyd, Levon Kirkland. Green was on the other side. Who was the second guy in the
I'm
middle?
gonna have to search it up.
Come
'Cause
on.
That's gonna bug
It's
the shit out
right
of me.
there. It's right there.
That's gonna bug me.
Jesse, no. He said, let's bring back Dree Archer. Hell
No.
Hell no. The guy can't even make it in the USFL. To which, congratulations to the Birmingham Stallions on becoming back-to-back USFL champions, if anybody cares.
Yeah.
The Maulers offense sucks ass.
God.
That offense really,
Dude,
really failed them.
the Maulers offense. Jason Golden.
Jason Gill, that's what it was, yes.
Jason Golden. Yeah. Duh. But no, cause we're watching the second half of that game, and we're like, are they playing like they're playing the Chiefs in the divisional game in the 2016 season?
Yeah.
They're getting all field goals.
Yeah.
It's like I'm watching flashbacks of
Chris
that.
Blewett, their kicker was the main kicker.
Yeah.
The main points. It was all field goals.
Yeah.
So. Do you remember Kendro Bell?
That's another one. Yep. That's another one.
Yeah.
Kendra Bell. Unfortunately, he was before our time, but yeah.
No, but I believe his rookie year, he was Defensive Rookie of the Year. You know, he was very explosive, very good. You know, he spent a couple years with James Ferrier, but just a bunch of injuries took a toll on his career. He had to retire so early.
Yep.
That's when Larry Foote came in and took his spot, and then obviously Lawrence Timmons came into play.
Yeah.
So, like, damn, it's crazy how that works.
And Jeff Stipp puts in the chat, Dan Moore wanted Marino. It was Noel that didn't want him. Okay. Glad you clarified that.
That's right. Because I thought it was weird for you to say that Dan Rooney didn't want, because Dan Rooney, he knows he knows players. Because it brings me back to another what if, and that's Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading Dan Moore's book. I'm on and off with that book.
Dan Rooney.
Yeah. I'm doing you now, goddammit. Dan
We
Rooney.
gotta get Dan Moore out of here. So we ain't gotta say his name anymore.
Dan Rooney's book. You know, he mentioned, because when he was a kid, you know, he grew up in the Pittsburgh area. He played high school football. And one grade above him in another school was Johnny Unitas.
Yes.
When he played, he never played against him, but he knew about Johnny Unitas.
The only Johnny football.
And the draft that we selected Johnny Unitas, he wanted to pick him earlier, but for some reason Unitas fell all the way down, and that's where the Steelers were able to get him. But the head coach that we had at the time thought that he wasn't football smart, thought he was an idiot, thought he couldn't make it.
Yeah,
And
he's one to talk.
Damn it, I said Dan Moore again. Dan Rooney. He was fighting tooth and nail to keep him, saying, you have no idea how good this guy will be in the future, how great it will provide this team. And the head coach wasn't having it, and the chief, Dan Rooney's father, he said he's the head coach, he knows what he's talking about. So in the end, Johnny Unitas got cut, he took a year off football, the Baltimore Colts picked him up, and the rest is history.
Never discredit Dan Rooney, man. He always had an eye for talent. The entire time.
How about another one? Len Dawson. We drafted Len Dawson first round. He was only here for a handful of years, and we got rid of him.
We had all these Hall of Fame quarterbacks on our roster, but only 2 of them were ever successful with the Steelers because we let the other guys go early.
Yeah.
Darn,
Real
man.
early. Yeah, it's crazy how, you know, Ultimately, they got it right. It took them 40 years.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they got it right.
It took them a coin flip and the number 1 overall pick out of luck.
It's just crazy, reading those books, man, the several Steelers books I've been reading, it's just great to know the history, the former players, and even the mistakes that they did during the Steelers' down years from the 30s all the way to the late 60s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy to hear those stories and everything like
Think
that.
of how many NFL championships we would have won. This was before the Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
Think of how many NFL championships we could have won, man.
It's just how stuff like that turns out.
Ernie Starner could have had a ring as a player.
Yeah, he could have. Bill Dudley could have had one.
Yeah, man. Oof.
Yeah.
That's a little hurtful, but
Wow.
now we know what the Steelers are now. 6-time Super Bowl champions, and hopefully in a few years short time, we can talk about number 7.
Without a doubt.
Maybe even 8. That's the hope. And truthfully, excuse me, that's honestly a certain expectation because, yeah, we're young, but in a couple years' time, we won't be as young.
No.
And we drafted a first-round quarterback, a first-round running back, a second-round receiver, one of the number 1 receiver that's getting $16 million.
Yeah.
We invested a lot in the O-line.
The defense, of course.
We traded a first-rounder for Minka.
How much we're paying
We
defense.
spent a first on Cam and TJ. We're about to pay Highsmith. Big money, right? I'm
and just add
confident saying
more
that.
to the highest paid defense.
Like, we got so much that we've invested. At some point, yeah, the expectation is going to be, all right, now it's getting crunch time, man. And we got to do it in Kenny's rookie year.
Yeah.
You see all these teams with these young quarterbacks. They're making it to the big game with quarterbacks in their rookie year. The Bengals, the Chiefs, they did, and
the Eagles.
The Eagles. Now it's our time, right? I'm not saying it has to be this year because it's not going to be this year. Maybe next year.
Very possible, but I'm not gonna
Not
go
with
that
Canada.
far. Not gonna go that
Not
far.
with
And yes, not
Canada.
with Canada. I don't trust Canada. Get the hell out of
The
here.
truth is, but the difference between us and all those teams is the coaching staff, the offensive mindset. We don't have that. Not yet.
Yeah.
I have hope and faith that at some point we're going to stop doing the bare minimum with the coaches like we did with the O-line and get something big there.
Yeah.
But that won't be this year. But I know this team's still going to remain competitive. But in a couple years' time, yeah.
Yeah. If anything, I could see this year being very similar to the Jaguars last year. They kind of
Yes.
had a. Now I'm not saying record wise, but yeah, as far as what the Jags did, they kind of had a very slow start and everything like that until they finally picked up the pace. They were finally connecting. Trevor Lawrence really broke out. He really stood out.
Yeah.
And they won a playoff game. They came all the way back against the Chargers.
Yep.
So they made it all the way to the division round against the Chiefs, and they kept that game a little competitive until the Chiefs did the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see something similar of the Steelers doing it, just to showcase some growth, some promise like, hey, this team can really do something in the future.
That's going to be a future podcast episode where we're going to talk about the ceiling of the Steelers team this year.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great discussion. We're going to get Coda on for it because that's just going to be a great back and forth discussion there. What do you think the Steelers... who do you think the Steelers will play if we get to Vegas? You mean quarterback-wise? If we get to Vegas?
Now, isn't the Super Bowl in Vegas?
Oh, that's right.
The Super Bowl's in Vegas, correct?
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Raiders ain't going to be there.
What NFC team's going to be?
Well, obviously the Eagles are still in contention, even with the guys that they lost.
lost a lot.
But they gained it all back, though.
They did.
They gained it all back. Obviously, the 49ers, depending on the quarterback. Rams, maybe, if they bounce back big time after the injury bug. That's a possibility. At least those are just the top 3 teams off the top of my head.
I'd say the Niners. We never got a Steelers versus Niners Super Bowl.
No, we never did.
2 of the most historic franchises in NFL history.
Or hell, I'll throw the Seahawks out there, I mean, they're depending on what Geno Smith does in his second year, starting with the Seahawks.
Geno Smith is not a Super Bowl leading quarterback.
I mean, I'm just saying, though, the Seahawks have really loaded that team, though. But it does depend on what Geno does after his contract extension.
No, I agree. But and
it's Pete Carroll, too.
You also can't discredit Pete Carroll.
No, you cannot.
No, not for sure. Watch Kenny and the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year, says Fast Furious 10. If that's most of your guys' expectation, I would calm down a bit, but I would obviously love that. I'm just not expecting it. Not this year.
At the end of the day, that's what we all want, man.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have to be this year.
And
I'm
not expecting.
It's not Super Bowl or bust this year. It's not. In 2 years,
Yeah, I'm not going that far.
It might be, But not this year.
Not this year. I'm not going that far. I see a lot of growth. I see a lot of competition, some progression, maybe even a playoff win because the Steelers haven't really won a playoff game since 2016.
That's what I want from this team this year is not Super Bowl, God. See what you guys are doing to me? A playoff win. That's all I want from this team. I know the standard is the Super Bowl, but this team is young. It's better than last year. No doubt. And we almost made the playoffs last year. Yeah. Now we got so much more experience, so much more of a better roster. All I wish for this year is a playoff win. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
A step forward in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then next year, maybe we can talk about, okay, maybe the Steelers can be a dark horse sleeper team.
Like I said, very much like the Jags.
Yeah.
That will be a great season for the Steelers. I know the Steelers standard is the Super Bowl, but there's no rush yet. It's not like we're still stuck with Ben. There's no rush. Soon there will be rush, but not this year. Anyway, I think we're going to call it a stream, man. We've been live for about an hour. And if you guys are doing any cookouts this weekend, we apologize for interrupting. But for those that joined, we appreciate all you guys sincerely. And quick couple announcements to close out. Again, shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring with today's podcast and today's podcast episode. SeatGeek.com to get your Steelers tickets, man. Code SteelTwins at checkout for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. And for STN members, man, if you guys want to get in on the Marquise Patsy signed jersey giveaway, you can do that via STN, the SteelTwins membership of SteelTwins Nation. You can get in on that. Not only will you be entering to get this Patsy signed jersey, but as well as this $50 Steelers Pro Shop gift card, which you can get as an STN member. Any STN member is automatically entered, and there will be details announced soon in the community tab. So if you are joining STN and you want to get in on this giveaway, keep an eye out for the community tab. That's where the giveaways will be placed, not only for this one, but future giveaways down the road and as we approach the season. So look forward to that. Otherwise, this has been episode 14 of the Steeler Culture Podcast. We appreciate you guys for joining us. And otherwise, I think we're going to close it out, man. Talked about the offensive line today. Had a nice little discussion with the chat. It's good to get back in the live streaming vibe.
Yes.
Good to get back in the live streaming groove because, hey, it's training camp month. In a very short amount of time, man, football season will be back. So it's good that we got a live stream going. Appreciate all you guys for joining us. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe. Have fun. Do it safely. And we'll see you in the next one. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!